Was that reckless enough? There we go. In the words of Stained, it's been a while. I saw The Triangle of Sadness, which won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, which is the best picture at like the fanciest film festival in the world. A lot of movies that are like considered the greats win it. Parasite won it recently. Pulp Fiction won it. Barton Fink. I think Taxi Driver. It's directed by Ruben Östlund, who is a Swedish filmmaker. I think he's Swedish. Is he Swedish? He's Swedish. I was right. Triangle of Sadness is about two models, sort of. We got a male model and then like an influencer, like an Instagram influencer who are very wealthy. And they come aboard a ship, specifically a yacht, a $350 million yacht, and they share it with a bunch of other extremely elite rich people. It's all about the power dynamic of, you know, there's these working class people who are running the ship, and then there's these elite, very, very, very rich people who have no idea how to talk to these working class people. This is a black comedy, very satirical. I thought it was hilarious. There's a 20-minute section in this movie, which everyone's talking about on the internet, and if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's just say it is relentless and disgusting and hilarious and angry and makes all of its points all in the 20 minutes. It's incredible. This 20-minute section, I can't stop thinking about because of how all of those, you get everything in that scene. It's not for everyone. It is very hard to watch, and I saw one person, like there was a couple behind me, and the guy stood up and left and then came back like 20 minutes later and just asked, what did I miss? Because it was so gross. This movie reminds me a lot of Parasite, not only because it won the Palme d'Or, but it's also about class. It has the power dynamics of the elite, middle, and lower, and then stuff happens, and then it all gets switched around, and if the lower is in charge of the elite, how does that work? And there's a conversation between a Russian capitalist and an American socialist, or specifically a communist, and they have a conversation while this 20-minute scene. I don't want to spoil it, but it's one of the best things I've seen all year. Every single scene in this movie is one of those where I think once it transitions to the next scene, I'm like, man, that was a good scene. And it's that over and over and over and over and over. It's a little long. The pacing definitely like, phew, after that 20-minute scene in the middle, it dies, but it still has all these themes, and the acting is amazing. The directing is incredible. The editing's great. It's just a great movie. Out of 10 food poisoning meals out of 10, I give this a 9.5 food poisoning meals. This movie is great. I'm honestly stunned at the movie. The only issue is it feels its length in the third act, but man, it's a lot in a good way. Go see this movie.
Hello everyone, welcome back. We have watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, the latest movie by the Daniels, and if you've not seen this movie, you've not seen this movie.
No, and I implore you to see this movie.
Because once you see this movie, it's literally, you can't stop thinking about it.
Nope.
It's literally about everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yes, and also all the emotions that you can possibly have all at once.
Yes.
Wow.
It's directed by the Daniels. If you're saying, what does that mean to me? It's two guys named Daniel. They directed Swiss Army Man. You know them for Turn Down for What music video.
Just a work of art.
A work of art.
And then a couple other ones.
This lollipop is still on my head, I
realize. It is.
I should take it off before it gets stuck. But this movie, it stars Michelle Yeoh as Evelyn, and she just cannot focus, and everything she's wanted to do, she's failed at. And she's just bad at everything.
Pretty much like ADHD undiagnosed almost. Where it's like she needs help.
Yeah. And her husband is Ki Hu Kwan, who you know from the Indiana Jones movies. He's great as the husband / dad. And then their daughter is played by Stephanie Hsu, who most people don't know because she hasn't been in a lot of things.
Yeah, I've never seen anything with her.
But it's about their relationship, all three of their relationship together. It starts one place, ends a different place, not gonna spoil it. But basically, it takes the stereotypes that you see of like broken families or like families that are in disrepair and sort of just like repairs them over time. But what the Daniels do is they say, you know what? Let's just go to the most insane degrees possible. Let's do the weirdest things possible. Hot dog fingers come at some point.
It has to do with like all sorts of different universes, and so they use that as an excuse to do high-flying kung fu action while also being ridiculously emotional. Like everything is just elevated. Like everything, the editing, the acting, just I love this movie so much, and I don't know what to say.
and it's hidden with homages like crazy. I mean,
there's like a Wong Kar-wai like scene almost.
Oh, throughout the movie, Wong Kar-wai is present. I mean, if you've ever watched Ashes of Redux or Ashes of Time Redux, it is like makes no sense. This obviously makes sense, but they go for that sort of style that movie is shot in, where it's like the slow motion, like Wong Kar-wai special. But also you get a Randy Newman cameo.
You do.
And when you find out what it is and you realize it's Randy Newman doing it, you're like, what? Yep. Excuse me?
But it's that, which is crazy because like what happens with Randy Newman is not the craziest thing that happens in this movie, and you just accept it. Mm-hmm. Like everything that like there's a scene, again I don't want to spoil anything, but where it's just two inanimate objects with subtitles, and it made me cry.
Yeah.
But it's like it was just dead silent. This is like an experimental movie almost, where it's just like let's do weird stuff, but telling this like super relatable story for some people in the best way.
It is about everything, but specifically it's about parenting. It's about being a good partner to your partner. It's also being good to your kid, but it's also about like just like accepting and understanding who you are, and like it's okay to make faults. I mean, but it's also about like how we're so divided as a country. Mm-hmm. It's about like pessimism versus optimism.
That's like the big one.
Both of them can share similarities, and like just because someone's a pessimist, me, doesn't mean that I'm like hate everything. There is one thing that I love. It's zebra cakes and pro wrestling.
And that keeps you going.
Exactly. And so it's like, it's the thing, you have to find the things you love and make sure you share it with people and they know this, and also make sure that your loved ones know that they are loved, and you can't just like hold back your emotions. Oh man, it's just, as a parent, wonderful movie.
You said all of those like super emotional themes while also hot dog fingers.
But it also has Jamie Lee Curtis in it, who's really fun. She's not
great.
Like present in a lot of the movie, but she uses her time really well. I mean, that's why you hire Jamie Lee Curtis.
She's a bucket of fun.
Yes. Jenny Slate's in it for a cup of coffee, but it's a really good cup of coffee.
Oh man. Yeah. It's hard to talk about this movie because I just want to,
Zach, I'm throwing you a curveball here. I want you to do something weird out of 10. And it can't involve the lollipop.
I don't know. Here, I'll do a little smiley face on my finger. So in the movie, in order to get different universe like powers, you have to do something absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. And so this is my insane thing, is drawing a little smiley face. And 10 of these smiley faces out of 10. I loved this movie so much. Insanely emotional. Everything that you can possibly feel while watching a movie is in this movie, while also being the most like creative and bonkers movie I've seen in a long time. And at the end of the credits, I just kind of sat there and like took a breather, which I haven't done in a long time. Like usually I'm like, oh yeah, that was a blast. It was like, It was left me breathless. He ate ash. Oh my God.
10 out of 10.
Welcome to the danger zone. We're here.
Danger zone!
We took the highway to the danger zone. We took the exit, got on the service road.
And passed at my boys.
Yeah.
And took our breath away. And we have the goose stashes. Or at least you do. I have whatever the heck this is.
Yes. What may honestly be the movie of the summer.
I think you're absolutely... Besides Thor,
Yeah.
which will probably make more money just because it's Marvel, this movie is like, as we just talked off camera, people our age and also the past 2 generations are going to be seeing this movie.
Yeah. We're talking about Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick. Let's think. Legacy sequel. It's been like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
COVID, while still very much a thing,
Yes.
people are feeling more comfortable. They're feeling vaccinated. They're going out to the theaters. And this is like the one that people were like, oh, absolutely, I'm going to see that.
I don't know anyone that doesn't at least acknowledge that Top Gun is huge.
Yeah.
And they at least like it.
Yeah.
Like
Hey.
even my fiance, who's like not really into action movies, she was like, I like that.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Tom Cruise, man. Directed by Joseph Kosinski.
It is.
He directed the Tron sequel. Underrated. Don't even talk to
Oblivion?
me about it. What?
Oblivion, right?
He directed Oblivion.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of music videos. And Oblivion, now he's back with Tom Cruise for Top Gun Maverick. You got Tom Cruise. Of course.
Yeah, obviously.
You've got Val Kilmer.
Oh, man. Oh, yes.
You've got Miles Teller, Glenn Powell, Lewis Pullman, just so many other people.
Ed Harris, John Hamm.
Ed Harris, John Hamm. A man, I cannot think of his name, but he is a dang delight. Huge cast,
Yes.
huge movie.
Jennifer
Connelly. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So, if you don't know what this movie's about, Maverick, he is still a captain. He is still chasing that need for speed.
Yes, he's still treating his superiors like trash.
Yep. And he is forced to go back to Top Gun, where he was kicked out of being an instructor years ago,
Which was-
following the sequel.
Yeah, like off camera.
Following the original, yes. He is there. He is now in charge of training former Top Gun classes to do this insane mission.
It could be North Korea. It could be Russia.
Who knows? It's somewhere, though.
And the big thing in this movie is they are actually in the
Yes.
jets.
Yeah.
And they shot over 500 hours of footage because they had like 15 cameras around them in the cockpit as
Yeah.
they were doing all these crazy
Yeah.
things. They're actually doing that. And that is insane to me.
We'll talk about, because there's some story things I'm going to talk about, but yeah, that's, I think, the biggest thing in this movie. It looks awesome.
Oh, man.
It sounds awesome.
Go see it in the biggest theater you can.
Please,
Because
yeah.
it is meant, like, there's a reason why Tom Cruise was like, I'm not putting this on streaming
Yeah.
services. I haven't felt that way in an action movie in a while because it's just so unusual to see real actors with their faces contorted
Yes.
from all the G's that they're pulling.
Yes. Let's talk about Tom Cruise. Let's talk about Maverick.
Okay. What about him?
I mean, what'd you think? I mean, this is a character that's old. This isn't an Ethan Hunt character that we've seen like progress over time. This is just, hey, you saw him in '86 and now it's 2022.
This is the role that made Tom
Yeah.
Cruise.
So, I mean, what do you
He is Tom Cruise.
I find myself just like loving like his character, like just kind of like where he starts, the fact that, you know, so many other people would have been like, no, Maverick's a dang admiral, all right, and he's gonna start at the top, and it's just like that.
He's a loser.
He's a loser, and he's not cool. Like, it's like he's a loser. No one knows who he is. I mean, they know his reputation, they know of him, but they don't know. They couldn't be like, that's Maverick. You know, it's like he is. Yeah, he's a washed up kind of loser, and I love that. And it's because he's selfish, and then, you know, things happen in this movie where he has to make decisions where it really is about him, like I don't know, accepting a legacy versus just trying to do the next big legacy thing. Not much of a plot there. Actually, it's a plot. But, you know, I found myself loving that it was like, hey, you're training for a mission. It's not like you going back to Top Gun and just teaching random kids. It's like, this is a real mission, and you're trying to pass on your experience. And how do you do that? It's like they knew what they walked in and they said, this has to be a great movie. This has to be a great experience. And we're not going to settle for less. And I love that. I love the new cast. I think they're all fantastic.
They're all great. And my favorite part is with all these legacy sequels that have been coming up is like, especially with Ghostbusters, you don't see the 80s characters nearly as much. Maverick is definitely the main character.
Oh, yeah.
You see, like, Tom Cruise is in almost every scene.
But it's also that, like, and again, I hope there's not a sequel. I don't want there to be a sequel. I don't think they set up for a sequel. But it's like, there is, like, but your newer characters aren't, like, annoying and aren't, like, just, you're like, oh, I wish that they were not here. I want to see, because you're getting so much Tom Cruise, but you're also getting, like, Miles Teller is great. You know, he's Miles Teller, but, like, Glenn Powell is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's just, like, all of them, I know them more about their call signs now, but, like, all of them hit so well.
The one thing that I didn't like, well, there's a couple things, but the big one is the same with the original movie, the schmaltzy romance. I personally don't care.
I think you're crazy.
I kept wanting to get to the next scene.
I was also like, oh, okay, Jennifer Connelly. I wonder if they're just going to kind of what her character will be and but like her character helps the plot, like helps Maverick's kind of arc.
I mean, she helps him like mature.
But it's
it's
like that. You have like like there's history there. It's not like him just being like, hey, you're pretty.
Yeah,
Let's
I mean,
get
like,
out of here.
there's history. It's all like, it's very. I thought it was kind of awkward because like everything was off screen.
I just think it's a almost a perfectly executed movie. It's got a perfect amount of cheese.
It is incredibly cheesy, and I'm okay with that.
You know, this is like Tom Cruise. This is like peak Tom Cruise. This is. I just don't know what's going to top this until the next Mission Impossible movie for me.
That's probably exactly what it is.
Yeah. I think we need to give it how many
whatever
these things out of 10 would you give it?
I would give this 8.5 these things out of 10. All the schmaltziness of the story that didn't exactly work for me, it's all made up by how insanely awesome the dogfighting scenes are. Like, that's what you come to see the movie for. You want to see Tom Cruise and others get their faces all contorted for pulling all those G's, and they do. It's awesome. It's wonderful. Glorious 80s cheese.
Oh, I'm gonna give this 9.5 of these things because I love this movie. I'm not even a huge original Top Gun fan. I enjoy it. It's fun to put on. You fall asleep during like the middle 30 minutes, but it's like it's this movie. It just blows me away. And Lady Gaga did make the music with Hans Zimmer. And it's so good, and it's just like it's the perfect really like nostalgia and summer blockbuster. It is honestly like up there with Scream for legacy sequels of like one of the best for me. That is just like that's how you do it, that's how you nail it.
Oh crap! There's one more thing I was gonna say. I already forgot it. Whatever you're gonna do.
First of all, we have to talk about Austin Butler.
Oh my!
Who is Elvis in this movie?
Mr. Dreamy.
I cannot explain to you how many times in this movie we saw this movie sitting next to each other, and he would just be like walking.
Oh,
and we would be like. like full on like what people used to do for the real Elvis. Like, we experienced that in the flesh.
When he was playing like the young, I mean, he looked good through the whole movie. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when he was playing the young Elvis and he kind of had that guitar behind his, and he was walking, I was like, I see you, Austin Butler.
Yeah, he sounds like Elvis. He walks like Elvis. He dances like Elvis.
Everything.
He moves. It just he took this role and said, I'm going to do this because
he ran with it.
Yeah, because, there were some people, and I think maybe you were one of them, that may have been a little skeptical.
I was very skeptical because, so obviously because of COVID, they delayed a lot of things in releasing movies and stuff. They gave him this role back in 2018, 2019. So we've known about it for a while. And I remember when they announced it, everybody was like, what? Like, he doesn't look like it. Can he sing? Like, what kind of credibility does he have from past movies, which is hardly anything really besides like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and stuff like that. So, I mean, I was a little nervous going into it, but then I've watched countless interviews of him post-movie and, people are kind of making fun of him because he still uses that accent and things like that, but he embodied this role.
I wonder if it's just like in him, like he can't almost shake it because I can't overstress how much he is Elvis. Like there isn't like a disconnect. Sometimes there can be movies where people are playing real life people.
Yeah.
And either they could be doing a really great job, but there is like a disconnect. Like we loved the Respect, the Aretha Franklin
Oh,
movie with
yeah.
Jennifer Hudson, she acted the crap out of that, but it is kind of like, well, that's Jennifer Hudson.
Sure.
You know, there's a little bit of a,
there's a
she doesn't look exactly like her.
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
wasn't the point.
Yeah.
But like, this movie, you feel like you're watching
Elvis.
young
Yeah.
Elvis come back to life.
Yeah, it was really good. So, you know, in this movie, they kind of focus on him and his relationship with his manager, Colonel Parker, who's played by the fabulous Tom Hanks. Who does not love a movie with
Doing
Tom
an
Hanks in it?
insane character.
He honestly might win an Oscar for this role. I mean, you know what I mean? Or at least be nominated. Because, I mean, he did extremely well. Like, you know, you put the pictures of him and the real Colonel side by side, and it's uncanny. Like, it's like makeup, the size, the hat, the outfits, everything. Like, it's perfect.
Because there's just, the real life Colonel Parker was a crazy dude. It's a double-hander. It's Tom Hanks and it's Austin Butler. Most of it is about their relationship and how it evolved from his very first, being his first person to get Elvis out onto stages and tour all over the place, up until, you know, working him to death in Vegas.
Basically.
And it's a Baz Luhrmann movie, so I was explaining it to someone earlier that it's the beginning, you kind of have to get used to what you're in, which is like this kind of magical, fanciful, like whirlwind of colors and music, and you know, it is kind of dreamlike, because that's the kind of style that he usually does in his movies. So you have to kind of get on board with, you know, Colonel Parker, which I think I said at the time, very unreliable narrator, but he's our narrator, and kind of taking us through like his remembering of all of the times with Elvis.
I love it because it really takes you back. Like, it takes you back to Memphis and like Beale Street and like in the 50s and 60s, and like B.B. King makes an appearance, and like, you know, they show
Little
the story,
Richard.
Little Richard. They show the story of Martin Luther King and when all of that went down, Senator Kennedy, when all of that history unfolded, and like kind of how Elvis as a person but also as a performer had to navigate around those big events going on. And you know, you've got people who didn't want to see his kind of dancing and singing on TV, but Elvis was Elvis, and he didn't care what other people thought.
He wasn't really family friendly. He tried. Yeah. He tried because he thought that that's what he's going to have to do to be successful. When he decides, no, I got to do me.
Yeah.
It's the movie kind of kicks off, and I mean, just like how Elvis just took off.
And you know, of course, they have all the classic songs in there, like, you know, you don't realize, I mean, I'm 26, you're 31 now. You know, like, we grew up listening to Elvis, but then it's like, he's got so many hits. Is that really, honestly, until this movie, I didn't even realize, like, I knew a lot of Elvis songs, but every song played, I knew it.
Yeah.
And it just shows you what kind of performer, what kind of king of rock and roll he was to carry that on from the 1950s all the way up until the 2020s.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's 70 years of music.
And talking about music, I told you we'd get back to Doja Cat, so here we have arrived. The soundtrack for this movie, I listened to it on the way home after we saw the movie.
Yeah.
But it's a great soundtrack. It's really interesting. It's got a bunch of current data. There's Doja Cat, there's Eminem. There's a bunch of people on it, and they all use samples from Elvis songs, but then they have like their own song on top of it. So in this movie, I mean, it's a very Baz Luhrmann thing to do, to have current music in a story that is set in the past. You know, we have in this movie Elvis Presley walking down Beale Street to Doja Cat.
So okay, how many hound dogs do you give it?
I like that. We're out of 10. I mean, I'm gonna have to go 9.
Yeah.
I don't know that anything's perfect. Maybe this one was. I want to go see it again. It's one of those, like, I know there are more Baz Luhrmann movies, but the one that comes to mind is Moulin Rouge, and you can watch Moulin Rouge over and over because there's just so much. So much visually happening, and that is the same in this movie. I'm sure there are, you know, things that I would love to see again that like will hit me different when I see it again. So I'm looking forward to that. And the music is great.
Yeah.
Austin Butler. Give him an Oscar.
I hope he wins an Oscar. I really do. I think he deserves it. And I at least nominated. I think it's a slap in the face if he's not nominated.
There you go.
And there's, you know, like I've said before, Top Gun, best movie of the year. This one comes a very close second. Like, very, very close second. So, yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10 as well. It was pretty good. So, go see it.
Go see it.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Oh, okay.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another review. I watched Avatar: The Way of Water, the sequel to the huge James Cameron hit. 3D masterpiece, CGI, spectacle, plot, average movie. And if you're thinking, hey, I just want some of that again, you're in luck, because James Cameron has pilfered his entire filmography to make The Way of Water. Basically everybody from the first movie's back. Sam Worthington, Sigourney Weaver, Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, Giovanni Ribisi shows up. There's a few other people from the original, but also you have like Cliff Curtis, Kate Winslet, Jermaine Clement, Edie Falco's in this thing. Sky people, the humans come back and want to find and hunt Jake Sully down and kill him to stop the insurgency, because the Sky people view the indigenous population of Pandora as bad people, even though it's their planet. You know, it's just another allegory for how the pilgrimage of people to America, and then they wiped out the indigenous population, and just, you know, countless times that has happened in human history is we've just gone somewhere, killed all the people that lived there before us, and then take over their land. But the main plot point here is Jake Sully and Neytiri have a bunch of kids. Sigourney Weaver's Avatar has a kid somehow. It's an allegory for Jesus Christ, Virgin Mary type of stuff. And it goes deep into that allegory of like consciousness and like religion and everything like that. So yeah, they run away and they go to the islands on Pandora where the water people live, the water Na'vi. And so it's a bunch of like just beautiful CGI shots that look so real sometimes and other times not. I mean, it just like the Avenger Endgame and Infinity War, the CGI ebbs and flows. When it's good, it's really good, but when it's bad, you can kind of tell. So it's 3 hours and 12 minutes of just seeing. It's like a nature documentary in a way. You're just seeing the beauty of this world while also getting a very simple story. There's a lot of exposition about how things work on Pandora still, and we get all kinds of stuff. Like, we obviously see the bond between animals with the other Na'vi people and, you know, the forest. It's like the water people and the forest people. And so it's really fun to see that. The Jake Sully's and Neytiri's kids are by far the best part of the movie. Like, it's very routine. It's very much, you know, John Connor in Terminator 2 type of feeling, where they're trying to teach or understand themselves and learn, but at the same time trying to teach people how to be. And so it's just very funny how James Cameron just like pulled from all his other movies. You get like True Lies stuff, you get Terminator stuff, you get Titanic stuff, you get stuff from The Abyss. It's just all collectively in here. And it feels like he remade parts of those movies into the way he wanted them to be back then, but he couldn't because of the CGI. And so that was pretty interesting to see. The best part of the movie is when one of the sons, an outcast, just bros out with a whale, and they talk to each other, and they're both outcasts. And, you know, we learn a whole lot about the whales of Pandora and how they're hunted, and literally just their whole body is discarded just for this resin that's inside of their brain that can prolong human aging. And so we went from unobtainium to now some whale brain juice is the most expensive thing here. And I guarantee in Avatar 3, something else is going to be the new thing. I wanted more of that movie. I wanted less of Stephen Lang in an Avatar body. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Basically all the military dudes that died in the first movie come back in Avatar bodies and are hunting down, this is the Terminator part, hunting down Jake Sully. So there's that stuff, and I wasn't really a fan of it, but the whale stuff and just like, you know, the collective consciousness and all that stuff I'm really into. And so it really breezes by. It's kind of, be prepared, this is a 3-hour movie, but it breezes by. Like after the first 45 minutes, it just goes. It just goes nonstop. There's really great action. Like, I didn't like the action at the end of the first Avatar movie, but the last action set piece at the end, it's very much gives you that Titanic feel, but it feels epic in a way. You got the whales fighting, well, one whale, and you got, the sons, parable, the daughters, and all this stuff. And so it's a lot to process. It's a very simple story, but there's a lot that he throws at you. And I'm interested to see the sequel. Whereas before I wasn't interested to see this sequel, but I thought I'd check it out anyways. But yeah, it's way better than the original. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10 ICUs. It is very fun. I think it's much more fun than the first one. The first one is very routine and, it takes forever to do stuff. This one is just like full bore, goes in. There are parts where it feels like oh man, just hurry up. But there are long sections here where I just was enamored by Pandora and what they could do with the CGI and how realistic some of it looked. So it does set up a third movie. There's going to be at least a third movie. So I'm interested to see that. If you have 3 hours and 12 minutes, plus another 30 minutes for trailers and ads, I think it's worth the watch. I mean, what else are you going to do on Christmas? Just go watch Avatar 2.
Un esercito di pro